why the fuck am I still scraping websites? I have to start with a bad Londoner confession. I've lived in London for 35 years. That's not the confession. In all that time, I have never seen Tower Bridge lift. Just never been in the right place at the right time. The information about when I needed to be there was never easily available to me. Then, at the start of this year, I started working for Zoopla. Well, hiring, obviously. And for those of you that don't know, this is Tower Bridge, and Zoopla is down here. So I can be from my desk in Zoopla to somewhere where I can see Tower Bridge in about 2 minutes. We're hiring, did I mention? So at the very least, I now have what you might call geographical convenience, which gives me an opportunity to see Tower Bridge lift. All I need is some kind of notification. So I'm thinking there's going to be some kind of data feed which feeds through to my Android phone and then makes something buzz on my Pebble watch, and I think, oh, Tower Bridge is going up. Yeah, if I've got 5 minutes notice, I can be there in plenty of time. And then profit, somehow. So I need data. Tower Bridge have a Twitter feed, of which more a bit later on, but you can read it as long as you like, but you will find no data. It's all chatty marketing bollocks. They have a website. On that website there's a page which shows you the bridge lift times. You can actually book a bridge lift, which was tempting. And if you page down, there's a list of all of the lift times. But no data in the formats that might be useful to me, like a calendar or a RSS feed or a JSON or something like that. So yeah, I'm going to have to do it myself, which is where we get back to the subtitle at the top. But at least being 2017, we have better tools than when I was scraping websites 10 and 15 years ago, and I particularly recommend Web Query to you. It allows you to write code that looks like this. So what are we doing? We're grabbing the web page that we're interested in. We can find stuff that we're interested in using a CSS-like language. It also has an XPath language that you can use here, and then for each thing that you find that matches this, you call this subroutine, which munges the data in interesting ways, and I end up with a array that's each element of the array contains all of the individual bits of text from the table. So at least they've made the website easy to scrape, which I guess is progress of a sort. So all we need to do now is munge this data, and I've decided that I'm going to create a calendar, so I'm going to make an iCal file and profit. Well, not quite as easy as you might think. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you, I suppose. So on CPAN I found data iCal, which models an iCal file, and within that distribution there is a data iCal entry event, because that's the kind of thing that I want in my file, an event. So the code is going to look a bit like this. I'm going to create a file, and for each element in my array of lifts I'm going to do something with the date. I'm going to create an entry, and I'm going to add some properties to that entry, and then I'm going to add that to the iCal, and then in the end I'm going to print it out into a file on a web server. Nothing complicated there. Then take a closer look at this lift times, and look at the first row, for example, and there's some data that's kind of obviously missing. They don't tell you what the year is, which led me to writing code like this, which basically says, take the current year, get the 2 bits of the data that we have got about the year, and parse that into a date-time object. If the number of the month of this new object is less than the current month, then we must have gone on to the next year. So increment the year and do the whole thing again. Horrible, but it works. Until they have a whole year with no lifts in it. But I think that's probably not going to happen. Also, I had to write this code because I've occasionally seen duplicates appearing on their website, which kind of makes me think that actually this website is somebody manually editing an HTML page every morning.
Does it mean that both sides of the bridge are lifting?
Oh, maybe that's it. But eventually we ended up with something like this. We set all sorts of interesting things. We get a correct date. And I've written this date time to iCal function, which enables me to convert from date time object to an iCal object. The duration is in some weird format. I need to change that actually because it says it takes 30 minutes. It actually only takes about 10 minutes.
That's an ISO 8601 duration specification.
Yeah.
It's not weird.
Well,
It might not be weird, but
it's standard doesn't mean it's not weird. you can't defend that point at all. It needs to have it needs to have a unique identifier, so I just took the, because you can't have more than one of them happening at once, no matter what the website says. But anyway, another slight detour that I went off on. If we go back to the bridge times, and look at two times that are next to each other in the table. Wednesday the 1st of March and Friday the 9th of June. Do you notice anything about those two dates? Yeah, but actually one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of these things don't actually appear on the website until the day before they're due to happen. No, what I mean is they're in different time zones. Well, I assume they're in different time zones, but because they haven't told me which time zone they're in, I can't possibly know that for sure. So,
at the same time as Europe's got that London.
yeah. But this one is probably UTC, and this one, because it's after the date, the summertime changeover, is probably in UTC +1.
Yes.
Yeah, but that varies.
Yeah, but from the date you know which one it is.
It doesn't matter, of course, because time zones are really easy to deal with.
No,
So I wrote the parser to know that they were in Europe, London. And then this date time to iCal function, and I started off by just printing out the time zone short name with a note to myself to check the specs later. Of course, that failed validation. The validator that I was using is here. It's a really nice way to validate your iCal feeds, and I wish more people used it. Then I found on CPAN datetime format iCal, which takes the datetime object and produces it in the correct format. Produces something that looks a bit like this, and that looks sane because that's a key from like the Olsen database. It looked okay, but it failed validation. And it failed validation for a really interesting reason. It said it was an invalid TZID. Now the TZID is this bit here, and as I said, that we know that's a valid time zone name. So if all else fails, read the specification. This volume, this probably specifies the text value that uniquely identifies the V time zone calendar component in the scope of the calendar object. So it's not a key into the Olsen database like it would be in any rational system. It's actually a key to another definition further on down the file. And when you read the time zone, basically what that's saying is that you have to reproduce the entire Olsen database in your iCal file. That's okay, so I can add this V time zone section to my iCal. Really? Okay. And I found that this data iCal distribution also had the section for the time zone, but the documentation said this. This module is not yet useful because some of the bits that that sit underneath the time zone aren't implemented. So basically, what I need to do is to re-implement the Olsen database within my datetime within my iCal file, but I can't because the module I'm using doesn't support it, which made me very sad. So is there a plan C? Well, yes. Actually, I went back to the iCal definition, and basically what this says, I'm running out of time, is that you can just put an ordinary ISO date in without time zone, and it just means local date and time, and no one cares, which makes me very scared, but it works. So I just and now we have a valid feed. So we throw together a website which looks like this, very pretty. It's at towerbridge.dave.org.uk if anybody wants to play, and there's an iCal feed that you can subscribe to. It also has the data in JSON if anybody wants to do anything in JSON.
How much does it cost?
How much does
Profit?
I reload the data daily. So the code's up on GitHub if anyone wants to play with it. I subscribe to the calendar and I profit. Well, personally I profit. Personally I profit because 13th of February, 1:30 in the afternoon. Andrew and I wandered down to the riverside and saw the bridge race. Just want to briefly touch on some prior art, because when I was writing this course, I wondered, well, this is an obvious thing to do. Why hasn't anybody else done it? Turns out there's this chap called Tom Armitage did it in 2008 and actually set up a Twitter feed saying that the bridge was raising. And then 3 years later, he got emails from people saying, what's happened to your Twitter bot? And he did a bit of digging around, and basically Tower Bridge had stamped on him because they hadn't got a Twitter feed at the time, and so his Twitter bot was called Tower Bridge, and they kind of wanted that. So I got a bit nervous at this point, and I sent a tweet to Tower Bridge saying I couldn't find the data feed to the lift times on your website, so I made some, showed them. I got this reply saying, oh no, they're all on our pointing me to the URL of the website that I clearly say on my website that I'm scraping the data from. So they don't. I've since emailed them trying to explain in great detail, but I've got no response from them. And in reply to the question that I'm sure you're all asking, there are 2 lifts on Sunday. These are currently the next scheduled lifts, and they're at quite convenient times at 8:30 and 9:15 in the evening. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Did the boats go through?
Sorry?
Did the boats go through?
Yes, but I took the photo at the wrong time. But I can go back because I now know. Sorry.
So the standard said about the timestamp that if it doesn't contain a UTC designator, that presumably means a trailing Z. So you could convert it to UTC and say blah 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 Z after the timestamp.
That would be another
UTC,
option, but
and then whatever display sign would convert into your local.
But I didn't trust the tool that I'm using to display